Hi, I'm MaryRuth Ghiyam, the founder and CEO of MaryRuth Organics and the author of the new book, Liquids to Lunch. Today on Ever Forward Radio, we spoke about how to execute your daily routine within a 24-hour period to help you move forward. And we also spoke about loss and how the pain points in our life do help us move ever forward.
Hey, welcome to today's episode of Ever Forward Radio. I am your host, Chase Juning. I'm so glad you're here for another action-packed, educational, entertaining episode that is going to bring value to your fitness, your nutrition, and your mindset. Today's guest, MaryRuth Ghiyam, is here to help us understand more than ever the power of our habits. In fact, she wrote the book on them. She wrote Liquids to Lunch, 12 Small Habits That Will Change Your Life for Good. Now, in this episode, MaryRuth and I go into a few of the ones that stood out most to me that have not only led the most change in my personal health and wellness, but the ones that I think could be the most impactful for you. So tune in. Not only are we going to go into healthy habits, what it takes to create them and maintain them, but also you're going to understand MaryRuth's why she started this company, and how not only she has created a thriving health and wellness company, MaryRuth Organics, but how she took that company from negative $700,000. You heard me right, $700,000 in the hole to a thriving, booming economic situation for her family, for so many other employees now, and things and products and services and initiatives that are changing the lives of so many other people around the world. And speaking of healthy habits, one that has added immense value to my snacking, my overall daily nutritional value, and making sure I'm getting adequate protein from a reliable, healthy source is today's sponsor, Paleo Valley. In particular, their 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef sticks. These things are so good. I keep them everywhere in my backpack, in my office, in the kitchen. I got to keep a few extra because everybody loves them, including my dog. I can't open this anywhere in my house without her running to come steal one away from me. But if you're looking for a healthy way to add protein into your day, to increase the likelihood of you snacking on something that's good for you, stacking the conditions in your favor, then I would encourage you to check out Paleo Valley's 100% grass-fed and grass-finished beef sticks. These things are so good and good for you. And you can even save 15% by clicking the link down in the description box or by heading to paleovalley.com/everforward. Make sure to use code EVERFORWARD at checkout to get that 15% discount. Code EVERFORWARD to save 15% off of these incredibly delicious and nutritious 100% grass-fed beef sticks.
3, 2, 1.
What's interesting about that, Chase, is that I had worked with so many people in New York City who were career driven, had a lot of financial resources, but because they were so busy, they couldn't really find that perfect balance of, I have all this financial resources, but I'm really career driven. How can I actually take care of myself? And so at first, living in New York, some people say it's the capital of the world. You've got access to cryotherapy chambers, ozone infrared saunas, just regular infrared saunas, acupuncture, massage, float tanks. The finance people were always into float tanks. But
I can see that.
I'm sure you can relate. Yeah. Just because you have access to something doesn't mean if you are really trying to work on your career that you have any time to do those things. So at first, people would come to me for 12 sessions, and I would see them once a week in my office, face to face.
You're a health coach, right?
Nutrition coach, exactly. Right? Yeah. Certified health educator, nutritional consultant. And we would make suggestions, protocols. Oh, do this, do this, do this. And I started noticing a common theme. These amazing people would come in, and every week I'd be like, okay, let's go over how was that infrared sauna? How was the skin brushing? How was the rebounding? And they would say, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't get to do any of those things. Mm-hmm. I was traveling. I had a deadline. I was working on a project. And after kind of seeing that consistent pattern, I said, okay, I got to change this completely. Mm-hmm. And so these protocols I did for them was 12 actions that they could do anywhere in the world.
No way, amazing. Okay.
Traveling, deadlines, no deadlines. And I tried to just kind of be like, okay, where can you squeeze in these things? And then what's powerful about it is it also works on the flip side when you don't have access to financially do all of those things, you can still do these things.
Okay.
So it brings like both ends of the spectrum together. And that's also why I believe it's universal truth, because health should be accessible to everyone.
It should be, and that's the big, pie in the sky dream, and certainly the goal of platforms such as this. We can have conversations and share these tangible, very easily applicable things that can yield just maybe once, but definitely if you're consistent enough, amazing results in your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, your relationships. As you were talking there, I was getting flashbacks to my health coaching practice as well. I was in Washington, D.C., another very, 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 corporate, career-driven, go structure. And, people were very, very successful, like a lot of us can be. But then when it comes to the things that we know we're supposed to be doing, or we've even agreed upon with a coach or a consultant of what we want to do, what we're paying for, what happens when you come back into the office? Oh, this happened. Yeah. Oh, I didn't get to do that, or part of this, part of that. And it's just, you have to create something new, or else I'm sure you can remember those patterns would just repeat. So what was the protocol that you created for people to be able to stick to their goals and see change no matter how busy or how lucrative their position may be, or the opposite?
So I always talk about chronological order. So sometimes if you're not doing things in chronological order, then it's not sustainable, probably won't last forever.
Or even like one kind of compounds on the other.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Sure, yeah.
Exactly. And also what you said about repetition, there's a few different concepts. One would be like healing through repetition. So to do the same thing every day, over and over and over again, until the body becomes stronger, the body heals. And I'm sure you'll agree, Chase, that truly everybody knows what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are.
A little bit.
So I always encourage people, okay, here are 12 actions. Let's go where all the green lights are. So let's pick the tips that, you like to go outside 15 minutes every day in the sunshine without your sunglasses on. That just allows like the vitamin D to actually come into the body much better. You can put on the sunglasses after you've had 15 minutes of sunshine exposure.
Yeah.
So we talk about chewing your food, liquids till lunch.
Yeah, you've got 12 incredible, like they're all mapped out here in this book. And that sunlight one is actually very, very important. I've talked a lot on the show about.
I saw in your stories.
Morning routine, evening routine, getting sun, like sleep hygiene is, for me, has yielded so many benefits. And so I've had quite a few guests on to talk about those things. Can you go a little bit deeper for us there? This is number 6 for anybody keeping track in the book. All right. Get 15 minutes of direct sunshine each day. Vitamin D is crucial for the mind and body. What is so unique about those 15 minutes? What is going on?
So also, when I looked at your stories before we did the podcast, I was so surprised to see you out in the sunshine.
Because
it's not something you see a lot of people do. I think you were like holding some coffee and you were like, I'm outside getting
yesterday morning
sunshine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did he read the book? But
I did have an advanced copy.
But also like just from talking to you, I know that that's just something you were already doing in your routine. And so there are a lot of plants in this room. Plants do not survive without sunshine. And I think that it's so deeply connected for individuals that you can't really grow, thrive, support your immune system without sunshine. In the book, there's a lot of things about how 15 minutes of sunshine will counteract the EMF, the electromagnetic chaos that comes from your iPad, your smartphone, your laptop. That is crazy.
That's a new one. EMF is something that's been new on my radar. And I don't know if you saw downstairs, but I actually have a Somavedic device that is, I'm going to butcher the scientific term, but it's basically an anti-EMF
amazing
bubble,
that's
emitter,
right.
And I keep it down on the main level where all my electronics are, where all the Wi-Fi is.
So powerful.
And so that's good to know. So that's not to steal your thunder, but I love how these little things, like they actually spill over into each other. So you can be working on one thing and it actually is benefiting another area of your wellness that you may or may not know. But 15 minutes to counteract such a powerful thing.
And sunshine is free and accessible to
Seriously,
everyone
yeah.
on the planet. So everyone loves to go on vacation. We associate vacation, the beach, the sunshine. It feels so good, the oxygen, the salt, the water. But even with my team at my company, we talk about how can you, if our team has like a 30-minute lunch break and 2 10-minute breaks. So I encourage people, hey, like you can take your 10-minute break outside.
Yeah.
Because just the feeling of getting that sunshine can evoke on a daily basis the same emotions of relaxation, anti-depression, anti-anxiety. And just to reiterate that the thing I was speaking about before was without the sunglasses for 15 minutes. I always say check with your doctor, of course, but just that going for a walk without the sunglasses consistently 365 days a year has a compound effect that you will absolutely be a different being a year from now.
It's like a condensed evolutionary experience.
Yes,
And
that's right. That's what's so powerful about it. It's not like you hear people say, oh, but during the week I'm on Zoom calls and on the weekend, then I'll go to the Palisades, or whatever. But it's the action of doing it every single day, if possible, or building up to that cumulatively. 1 year from now, just taking one action, you will be different. You will be so many things will break down walls for you just by, okay, all those actions, the sunshine one sounded the best for me. Let me just do that first.
It doesn't have to be complicated, people. It just pick one thing that you can do consistently, and then, measure the results. What does the data say if you track anything? And more importantly, how do you feel? Like, how are you showing up more in the day? And that's actually something that is new for me, that I'm relatively new. I'm always the guy wearing sunglasses. I've got light blue eyes like you,
Yeah.
very light sensitive. And years ago, I had PRK eye surgery. It's like LASIK, but different.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more light sensitive. But we had a guest on the show about this time last year, Matt Maruka from Raw Optics. He runs this
Very
organization
nice.
called The Light Diet. And
Wow,
that was
great.
a big takeaway for me, was actually the evolutionary change that can happen in a relatively short period of time if you train your eyes to not only become less light sensitive, but what it's actually doing in terms of vitamin D production, photosynthesis, photosynthesizing, because that's one of the main direct ways that our bodies receive energy is through the lights. And so it wasn't comfortable for me, but I had to train myself, like, no, I'm going to get through this. And now I'm noticing a difference just a few months later of a little bit less light sensitivity. And, I feel like I'm not squinting as much. And so I'd be curious to see if it actually manifests in like a vision test or something.
Yeah. And also everything you said is so important, because sometimes people have issues where they're like, oh, it was uncomfortable, I didn't want to do it. And then you like push through.
That's what we have to do, right? That's what we have to do if we want to have a fair assessment. And another thing, do a smooth little segue here. You were mentioning about emotions, and when we're getting more sunlight and vitamin D stimulation, it has an emotional carryover, which is another point in the book here about focusing on stressing less. Number 10, high stress means higher cortisol levels, which creates cellular damage. And so here's another point of how focusing on sunshine can actually help with another point that we're working on. So how can we work on stressing less?
So what's amazing is that there's so many things I can say on this topic.
It's a big topic. I'm throwing you the wolves
No,
on this
no,
one.
no. It's great. So everyone has a different viewpoint. So my viewpoint is one perspective. And then I feel like as you listen to podcasts, you read books, you hear more, you can add on to one tool that I've used to manage stress and I've seen successfully really, really, really help people. So there's an expression I always use, which is called structure creates freedom. And that's based off of everything. And I think you love routines as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of Jocko Willink. He said discipline equals freedom. It's the same
It
concept.
is the exact same concept. Everyone wants, this is just my interpretation, everyone wants freedom to do the things that they love and that make them happy. That's and to contribute to people around them, their communities.
I would agree. Yeah.
So going back to Chase, like what we were speaking about earlier, chronological order. So if I could just walk you through chronologically some of the things that
Please, yeah.
lead up to this stress less concept, and what it could mean for each individual listening. Chronologically, the best place I could tell someone to start when they want to go on their health and wellness journey is to have awareness about themselves. This is so powerful to just, and it's okay. A lot of people actually don't have awareness about what makes them happy, what do they enjoy, but just the action of being like, after I listen to this podcast with Chase, I'm going to sit for 5 minutes and I'm going to think about what makes me really happy. What do I want to do for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
And once you know, right? So some of the people listening already know they have a lot of self-awareness. What makes them happy? What are they passionate about? Some of the people listening might not be completely sure. They might say, hey, 5 years ago, I really cared about this. Now I'm still doing the same thing, not that passionate about it anymore. How can I get out of that situation?
Great example, by the way.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it doesn't have to be so future thinking, but just look back on your life and see where the change has been. Yeah.
It's so, this is what I think is the very first step. If a person has self-awareness about the macro, like the end goal, then all the micro is going to be very easy to execute, manifest, create a routine, and basically achieve. Like the micro and the macro are so deeply connected. I spoke earlier today about how sometimes people don't think like making a smoothie every morning is an action that can be deeply connected to getting out of debt. They are connected. And so when we're thinking about stress, a lot of times stress can come from, again, one small perspective is my viewpoint, not the best time management. And so what you can do is kind of reverse engineer, work backwards, and then move forward, ever forward.
Yeah.
So in order to go ever forward, we need to go back for a second, which is literally to say, I'm always changing. I'm always fluid. I'm never stagnant. What used to make me happy might not make me happy again. Be like, okay, and all it takes is 5 minutes. Okay. At this moment in time, what do I want? Then build a routine. So if you draw like a circle, and I used to do this in my office with my clients, you draw a circle.
Yeah.
The circle represents.
I love visual aids.
This is like my favorite. I would teach webinars, group classes, small group classes, live group classes, same thing every time. A nice big circle. And then I would say, okay, here's 8 a.m. Here's liquids to lunch. And we take these 12 actions. We're like, okay, you like getting sunshine on your lunch break? Okay, let's put it right here. 15 minutes of sunshine on the lunch break. Okay, you eat at these anchor times. You eat at 12, you eat at 3, you eat at 7. Okay, let's chew our food. Okay. So like I would make people map out. Let's put all these little actions in their little 24-hour thing.
Yeah.
Show them it's doable. So that is like an amazing first step to manage all this stress, all these emotions by saying, okay, I know myself better than anybody else. I'm going to make my own routine. I can't tell someone what their routine is. For sure, I cannot. All I ever did for people was be like, here's your 24 hours. Greatest human denominator is we only all have 24 hours.
Let's mirror that back. Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
How are you going to use this so that the end goal is like that structure will create that freedom? So let's say, you put all the actions in or whatever you like as well. That's where you're going to get so much strength to carry out the daily routine when emotions are not supporting the routine. Like my 4 children under 4, right? Last night I slept for 4 hours.
And here she is, everybody.
It's like 4 hours. But what do I always go back to? I have this structure. I have this routine. It is always there for me and it will move me ever forward. I will go back to it. I slept 4 hours. I will wake up. I will do the routine. And it's always changing, right? Because your life's always changing. Sometimes you're sick. Sometimes you're this. Sometimes you're that. But let me execute it. It's never failed me before. I've changed it as I've grown. And then cumulatively, if you are executing a structure that will lead you to things that make you happy and have joy, then you're already starting to reduce your stress. A lot of times people hit a mountain of stress because stuff doesn't go their way. And they have not created enough organization to handle literally every single day, so many things are going to not go our way.
All the things.
Literally
Sometimes
all
the
the
things.
time.
Yeah. Gosh.
And it's so powerful to take back the power. So I call it like be the cause and not the effect. So the way that you are the cause and not the effect of your life, meaning the external things that happen to you, this lowers stress so much, is the same way that someone would build self-esteem.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is so powerful. Once you kind of break it down on paper for yourself, okay, where does self-esteem come from? Self-esteem comes from a relationship that you have with yourself. You say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work out. I'm going to make a smoothie. And then when you do one micro action and you execute it and you told yourself that you were going to do it, and you break down that little wall, because they're all little walls, you build cumulatively through perseverance, repetition, compound effect, so much self-esteem. But that self-esteem is a relationship with you that you know that no matter what happens, you're going to handle it. And that is so powerful because stress comes from a feeling of being out of control.
I would not disagree with that. I would not
I
disagree.
didn't do this deadline. I didn't do this. Something happened, something positive. We all have positive stress. I'm getting married. I'm having a baby. So many positive things happen to people.
But it's the same physiological effect on the body.
It's the same thing. Yeah. All that stress. But when you feel stress, kind of take back the power a little. Say, I'm going to be organized. I'm going to have my routine. I know it's going to lead. And even if you don't know the answer, something really bad happens to you or someone you love, by kind of executing the things, taking care of yourself, sticking to that structure will allow the answers to unfold. And one final thing that's fun. Yeah, that's the big thing. Even when I was in so much debt, it's like, I don't know exactly how I'm going to get out of this problem. But what I do know is if I take care of myself and I by executing the daily routine, you are moving forward.
Absolutely.
Move forward every day.
Sometimes, what's the quote? I always butcher this, but it's from one of my favorite books of all time in terms of productivity and goal setting, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And there's a phrase in there, or a concept, they talk about how sometimes it feels like you are failing so slowly, it feels like success. Like you don't quite realize what you're doing is actually deterring you from the goals. I actually love the opposite of that. Sometimes I think you are succeeding so slowly that it feels like failure. But to your point, it's like if you just have one or two or three, whatever your stacks are of successful habits, things that you're doing to be the cause, then how can you fail? If each one of those in their own are successes, then it just may feel like failure, may feel like you're not moving the needle. But like, take a look back. Take a look back at your life, the last week, the last year,
amazing.
you know? Yeah.
You like literally said exactly what I believe. That's the whole thing. Because if it's sustainable, if it's going to last forever, if it's really, really impactful and really important, patience. So patience with the routine, you're definitely moving forward. And that's where it gets tricky. And I was sharing with you before the podcast, I said that quote, everyone overestimates what they can do in 1 year and underestimates what they can do in 10.
Yeah.
So I'm 37. Yeah. If I look back at 27, that 10-year period, it's crazy. But for sure, for 10 years, I feel like it's like almost like the same, it's like the same movie.
I can relate, yeah. Waking up Groundhog Day every day.
And then just one other closing thing about structure creates freedom is what's exciting is you want to do things that are fun and spur of the moment. And by being organized, when somebody says, hey, do you want to go to the beach right now? Because you kind of have a handle on your to-do list or whatever, you can actually pivot and adapt. So I feel like I have a lot of structure, but I feel like I have the most freedom. And that's very hard to say, especially when you're a parent and you have 4 children under 4, because I kind of really invest a lot in like, what's our routine? What are we trying to do? And I look forward to...
And you're running a business on top of all that. So yeah.
Really tricky. But I think that's where because everyone wants like fly by the seat of your pants. I could do whatever I want, but you can, and you can have both. You can have both. You can have both.
I don't disagree. And I love your whole concept. You were talking about in the beginning of how you helped people build the life that they want around the life that they already have, and because it all already exists together.
That's
And
right. Yeah.
that was some of the greatest breakthroughs I had in my coaching practice as well. Was there was two methods. It was either the inception method, to where I just, we help nudge the person to get to the idea that we really want to just like do this, do that, kind of just, yell at them like the answer is staring you in the face, but that's not going to be adherent for them. If it comes from their own idea and then you agree, this person that you're mirroring back to, then like, boom, that was adherence number one. But then two, it was the life that you want already exists in the life that you have. It's just, what are you willing to carve out and protect in order to like expand that? And that's it. Just takes the excuses out of it. I love that whole 24-hour diagram. I loved, well, this is what you're doing. Okay, we're going to implement these things in what you're already doing.
Green
We're not
lights,
creating
green lights,
exactly.
Go forward.
What
go
an amazing
forward.
book that was. Did you read that one?
No.
Oh, Matthew McConaughey, Green Lights.
No, but I saw it all over Instagram.
Oh my God.
I saw it all over.
You got to get the audiobook. He reads. He doesn't just read it.
People
he
said
acts
it was amazing.
I probably listened to it twice.
I will
through.
get it now
it's
that you've
so
shared.
Good. You got it's hysterical. It's informative.
It is called Green Lights. Is
called
that what
Green
it's
Lights.
called?
Yeah. I thought you were referring to
No,
that. But, you
but
gotta
that's
check it out.
amazing.
Check it out for sure. So there's another point in here that I want to bring to the audience's attention before we kind of get into your backstory a little bit, because what I love about so many people that I get the pleasure of meeting and having on the show here is it's very rare in my experience that you just woke up one day and had this epiphany of, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to change the world, and I'm going to show people how to do it along the way. You had some health concerns going on, you and your family. And so I would love to kind of get to that origin story a little bit. Before we do, I want to bring up one more, and that is number 12. And maybe this is just the LA in me. I've been here for a couple of years, tapping into the woo. But I can tell you, the more and more that I have just kind of surrendered and let go to just the current of life, my spiritual self, God, all the above, believing in a universal force of goodness. And even break it down here that it doesn't matter what you call that universal force, God, creator. It just matters that you believe that the universe wants the best for you. Why is that so important?
So powerful.
And why did this make the cut here?
So powerful. Amazing question about why did this make the cut? So a lot of the book is about controlling, right? So, okay.
I see.
Okay, let's control. But life doesn't work that way. Just because you're trying to control something does not mean that you will make it happen.
Just because we have a plan doesn't mean that it's going to get executed all the time or in accordance to our idea of what it's going to be.
And so this last chapter is what I call like the frosting of the cupcake. It is this X factor thing that can really take your mental health, I think, and your wellness to the next level. So, right, all the things we were kind of talking about before, let's exercise, let's stretch, let's organize our pantry and our fridge, let's budget, let's get out of debt, but also believing in a universal force of goodness allows this perfect duality of also letting go. So it would be something like giving 100% involvement, hard work, but detached from the outcome. And the reason you do the let go at the end is because if you're into quantum theory, which I'll talk about in a second, you allow the universe to put things in your life and in your movie that you know are moving you forward. And that's great because ever forward. The whole point is that even if you try to control everything, if you believe there's a universal force of goodness that allows every single thing to play out, I like to say from the seed of creation. So let's use examples that are like pretty intense. Let's say somebody has to go to jail, right? Maybe they did something they shouldn't have done in business. They got in trouble for it. They have to go to jail. A lot of the pain that would come from the mental pain of that would be that I think there's even, was it Iverson? There's an amazing movie. I watched it on an airplane with a basketball player about how he had to go to jail because he got accused of starting a fight in a bowling alley.
Allen Iverson?
Yes.
That sounds familiar.
Yes.
Yeah.
In basketball. And he
Okay.
became like the great, this is a better example than even the jail part. Because when I watched the movie, I'm like, yes, that's the universal force of goodness. It was literally like he had to go to jail. Everyone said that he had started this fight in a bowling alley. He absolutely did not start the fight in the bowling alley. There was even video footage that showed that he did not start the fight. He went to jail. This was before he was already so good at basketball. He was going to have like the greatest career. He calls his grandma. He calls his grandma crying.
Sure.
I mean, who think about the pain. You know you didn't do something. Now you're going to jail for it.
Yeah.
Calls his grandmother and says literally, I would be okay with going to jail if I had actually done something. But he's talking to his grandma, but I didn't do something. And then she said the universal force of goodness thing, which is like, and I don't want to make it about religion or God or not God, but she said like God has put you through this process. You can't challenge the God or challenge the universal force of goodness, puts every person through a very loving process that I do think in the end, none of that pain was in vain, and that in the end they become the greatest version of themselves. And so the story, I think it was Allen Iverson. The whole point is like, it's safe to say that he may not have become one of the greatest basketball players ever if he hadn't have had that thing where he went to jail. I know I don't want to make it too specific, but it's very powerful that without that pain, we don't know what the desire would have been on the other end. And so it's a way to kind of accept and make peace with things that we can't control, good or bad, that happen to us every single day. Yeah. It's very healing if you can pause, stop, something happens, and say like, look, this is so uncomfortable right now. This is so painful. Which leads into a little bit of like my own story, or even you losing your dad in 2005.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of belief that since the seed of creation, however it was supposed to play out, it all played out that way. You couldn't control it. But what you could do is through hard work and perseverance, you can speed up the process of what is positive and what is going to happen in your life naturally.
It's all going to happen regardless. It's just a matter of what is your intention and action plan.
And how much in your mind, was it extremely difficult? Was it extremely painful? Or was there a let go where you knew and you told yourself, I don't see it now at all, but this from the dishwasher breaking to the smoke detector going off in the middle of the night, all the way to losing a loved one. I don't see it now, but I know that this is for the ultimate good. And even like if somebody steals like $10,000 from someone, right? That could be painful. Someone breaks into your house, they steal everything from you. There's a lot of mental pain, like where people think like, well, I should have locked the door. It's my fault. Why would I do this?
What did I do wrong?
So hard on themselves. In every facet, people are so hard on themselves. But there is this quantum theory aspect where in that moment, instead of being hard on yourself, replaying it, you're fighting with a friend, you're having a disagreement with a spouse, instead of being hard on yourself, like, why did I say that? Now I caused this problem. Now this, it's more that all of the let go, all of it's playing out as it should. How quickly can I recover and learn from the lesson and move forward? It's all about moving forward. How fast is your bounce back time?
What a great name for a show or something.
Ever forward.
So well said. Absolutely. And my audience has heard me talk about it many times, but I'll say quickly that I am now at a place 16, 17 years later of losing my dad, my biggest hero in life, that I am like at peace and in gratitude for it, because without that, I would not be here doing what I'm doing today. And I would not have this outlook on life, and I would not have for me, it's purpose, everything. Of course, we'd love for him to still be here, but it's just if you finally surrender, and I did years ago and still am, it's just like you realize like this is a part of the process. And so I'm either just going to keep fighting the current or I can learn to navigate it.
Also, would you say that you feel your quality of life
Oh my
is
gosh,
like,
yes.
for me,
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing for me with losing my dad and my 17-year-old brother suddenly, was that it's not in vain, because my quality of life, like the appreciation I see like with my children, I think my quality of life, I might not be like heart bursting
Sure.
you kind of were like, okay, yeah, we're all here together. But when you have that, I feel that I've really appreciated everyone around me so much.
And I'm sure that was, for, a few moments here, if we could kind of get into just the loss that you experience and the health scares that you and your family have had over the years, I'm sure was the catalyst for everything you're doing at MaryRuth's and the book, and these incredible products and mission, really, that you're helping people change their life.
Also, one question before I share, how old were you when you lost
I was
your dad?
19.
That's really young.
Yeah, I was 19. I'm the oldest of three. My sister was 17. My brother was barely 14. So it impacted us all very differently. We're all very young. And I was 19 years old. I had just joined the Army. I was away from home for about like a year, and very, very interesting, formidable period of my life. Yeah.
Also, there's a book called Don't Let Death Ruin Your Life. And in the back of the book, there's a list of like every scientist, every president, so many actors and actresses, so many entrepreneurs. The common denominator of that book, so I'll say the name again for anyone who's listening. It's called Don't Let Death Ruin Your Life. They listed every successful person who lost at least one parent under the age of 21.
No shit. Interesting.
Yeah, there's a huge correlation.
Can we start a support group? Let's get coffee or something.
No, it's amazing. It's not even for all the listeners who haven't lost an immediate family member. The concept is that pain is really good.
I agree.
It opens you, and I feel like
Pain
it
is a teacher.
expands you. It expands you, and it doesn't shrink you. And I think that it takes time, like you said, to really go through any painful situation. But that's another tagline. Like I have these taglines that I like to say, like structure creates freedom, healing through repetition. Another one is just like loss of any kind. It's expanding you. It's not shrinking you. A lot of times stuff happens to people, even for any women listening, miscarriages, people, they're shrinking and they should expand throughout the process. But they shouldn't feel bad about going through those things.
I agree.
It's tricky.
It is.
And then
it's
also,
easier said than done.
Right. Yeah.
And on your own timeline.
On your own. That's the key. It's not like, it's just can be comforting for people to hear that after they have gone through a process, it will come maybe full circle. There's circuitry there.
I agree. It took me 10 years.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think also just with my story, I won't share too much, but what I will share is a couple of the key things that did come full circle.
Amazing. Thank you.
So that people can think of their own process. Like they have some pain points, 3-4 pain points in their life, and then try to also feel for them. Like, how does that come full circle? And so for me, I'll just kind of say the short version chronologically, and then I'll just say on the flip side, how I can see how it.
Everything's always in chronological order.
And
true to nature.
Yeah. And that all of those things were pushing me ever forward. Forward is a huge thing. I always say like move forward every day. So even I didn't know when you had shared ever forward came from your dad, but it all made sense to me more as you were
amazing.
talking. I was like, oh, of course. Because ever forward it's not ever forward, move forward every day. People say bounce forward, fight forward. But you don't always hear people talking about these concepts. So I did wonder like, oh, ever forward's like so unique. In the book, I think I say something like the book's dedicated to my mom who taught me how to move forward every day.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
So the bottom line was just, I had a few things in a short amount of time that just led me where I am today, which is When I was 12, my dad passed away suddenly of a heart condition. He was an amazing athlete, wrestled at Penn State.
Wow.
So strong, so healthy. My brother, Daniel, varsity baseball pitcher, high school in New Jersey, going to college to play college baseball. Last thing I ever saw him do was, and it's meant to be, I left college a day or two early, don't know why, for Easter break, drove home, watched him pitch in his varsity baseball game. Then I did like stuff I don't usually do. Then I instead of seeing my friends, you're home for the weekend from college, I went outside his locker room, waited for his friends. Then we all drove to the restaurant. Then the guys were making fun of me because I was putting lipstick on. They're all making fun of me, the whole team, everybody's in their uniforms. Then I go and I have dinner with them. Just all those moments.
Those were the last moments you had with him, I'm understanding correctly?
Exactly. And
Wow.
then, but it was meant to be because I had been at college for so long and I got to see him. If I hadn't have had that last, and also it wouldn't have been fair to my mom. She went to wake him up the next morning for another baseball game and she just screaming at the top of her lungs. And I was there. Otherwise she would have been alone.
Passed in his sleep?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
And, witnessing all that, it's really you live through. She tried to do CPR. It was just those things that they change your perspective forever.
They change your life.
Forever. But looking back at even the way it unfolded, I felt like there was grace in there. And so then my mom, it's a metaphysical thing. You were talking about LA and all of that. She got my mom got 2 benign brain tumors. So some people say there's 2 because it's her son and her husband, manifesting as 2.
Wow.
There's a lot to that. A lot
Wow.
of people look at the body that way and different ailments in the body. And so I'm just going to speed through this part really fast. It was amazing. She made a full recovery even after one of the surgeries with a top neurosurgeon at Columbia left her kind of paralyzed on the left side of her body. We did all the nutrition stuff, learned about all this stuff. And then she came out the other end. She's the CFO of my company. Again, we have 90 employees at MaryRuth Organics. There was a moment in there where Lehman Brothers crashed. Lehman Brothers went under and the housing market crashed and my mom lost her business, which left us in $700,000 debt.
Say that again. Say that number again.
$700,000 in debt. People say, well, how could you have $700,000 in debt? Where does that come from? And people who've run companies know that it can come very fast.
Oh, yeah.
So I grew up very spoiled. My dad was a lawyer. My mom took over. He also had lumber yards on the side. She took over those lumber yards when he passed away. 300 employees, 90 million in revenue. And again, housing market crashes. No one wants lumber. No one wants to build. I remember she called me, told me something we only have $100,000 left for payroll. It's what?
For hundreds of employees.
For hundreds of employees.
Oh my goodness.
But we basically liquidated the business in such a way that we took care of everyone. We did not file for bankruptcy with that. But it was so powerful for me to watch in my formative years, in my 20s, building this business, destroying the business. So then on the flip side, 8 years later, when I went to build MaryRuth Organics, I made so many decisions that I didn't watch happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even that pain point. And so there were 6 locations, and at the end of the day, she had personally guaranteed a lot of stuff. And so that left us with that $700,000 in debt.
Wow.
And
what a comeback story.
I went 7 years and I got out of that debt through my private practice, through my clients, and through launching our product line. And there was just that tipping point where we were selling on Amazon before Amazon was popular. And I mean, do you want me to say just a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, and
Yeah.
this has been great, a great way to cap the interview. So thank you so much for giving us this backstory.
Yeah, thank you. I will just wrap up basically because I think a lot of entrepreneurs might be listening and they would find the Amazon aspect really fascinating.
Oh, I'm always intrigued by it, but it's just like, Chase, put down the shiny object. You don't need any more shiny objects, okay? Yeah, like we were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
So I remember when I was in a lot of debt, because everyone in my private practice was doing liquids to lunch, everyone would say, "Oh, I'm taking a capsule, but the capsule makes me really nauseous." And so I thought, okay, let me make a liquid vitamin.
Because it has to be digested. It has to be
To drink your liquids,
metabolized. Yeah.
and then take your liquid vitamin, and then the capsule won't make you nauseous while you're doing liquids to lunch. And so I called for 6 months, like every manufacturer. Again, I was in a deficit. I didn't have money to do like 20,000 bottles of a custom blend type of thing. This was probably 2014. And this was before like Instagram and like everyone, it was really different back then.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I found a manufacturer in California and I said, please, please, I can only afford 90 bottles. Can you mix one small batch, ship them to my apartment in New York City, which was 650 square feet. And I used to sleep on like this one mattress and my husband would like sleep on the mattress on the floor. And just like, I took those 90 bottles and I sold them in my office and we shipped like 20 to Amazon.
Oh, wow.
And without me asking or knowing, some of my clients in my private practice reviewed the product on Amazon. And because it was sugar free, it made it in the algorithm to the first page on Amazon.
There you go.
And I want to say two other inspiring concepts about that before I just bring the whole story full circle. What's amazing is that I sold like the first day I cried so much. I sold like like $300 worth of vitamins. And I had been working privately with clients where it was 12 sessions in New York City for $2,860 for 12 sessions. And I would sign up like 20 people a day. I had to pay, I was in a debt management program. I had to pay like almost 40 with my mom's apartment, my apartment, and my office apartment, plus the debt management. I had to make like $40,000 or $50,000 a month.
Wow.
And my husband, when I got married to him, only had $5,000, and he wasn't really working at the time. So like a lot of pressures. That's why it took me a long time to get out of $700,000 in debt.
Wow.
But I kind of did what we spoke about. Like
But you figured it out.
I had a routine. I executed this like self-care routine. I knew all these micro actions, going to bed early or saying no to that cocktail would allow me micro action to get out of this macro problem, $700,000 in debt. And I saw that those vitamins sell. And then every year they sold a little more. And I kept doing my clients and everything. And eventually there was like a tipping point when there was a moment when we were out of debt, which was insane. I was still, I have I have 4 children. And in 2016, I was still in debt when I was pregnant with my first child. And it was like, there was like this moment when like we finally got out of debt and then I had my first child, but like literally,
damn it.
And we did all those things that are great where we didn't hire employees for a long time in my business. We used any profit that we had to make a new product instead of hire an assistant.
Put it back into the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of those like little things. And today, like I said, we have 90 employees and, currently, I own 100% of my business. I took no outside funding. I came from a negative $700,000 deficit. And the closing comment of like all of that stuff we're talking about, like all the pain points that people have, how can they bring it full circle? The final closing comment I have, Chase, is the most impactful personal decision that I made throughout that process of getting out of debt was one choice. That pushed my whole life forward. So you take all the things we just spoke about. a lot of those things I didn't have any control over. Remember, we said like things happening you have no control over. There was one thing in that story, the founding story of MaryRuth Organics, my company, where I had so much free will that it changed everything. And it was the hardest decision I made. And very quickly, it's like this. I had a moment where in our group of friends, when I was dating my current husband, David, and I was so in love with him, and again, only had $5,000 to his name.
Bless his heart.
There was a moment in our group of friends when there was someone we all knew, all our friends, we all knew this guy, he's a finance guy, really, really wants to marry me, basically, like the bottom line. So there's this moment, he has millions of dollars where
i.e. answers to your problems at the time.
i.e., if I just go over here, and I'm not saying anything negative about him. I'm
Sure.
just like, the bottom line was like, a lot of people would have been like, also the debt wasn't really my debt. It was kind of my mom's debt from the, all this, where they just go, you know what? I'll just go over here. And something told me like, no, I'm not just going to go over here and make my debt go away like this. I'm going to kind of what we talked about before, be the cause of my own life. I'm going to deal with this. I can deal with this. I don't need help from anyone.
Yeah.
And I chose to marry the person that I really love. I love him so much today. We
Amazing.
have a 4-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, 2 twins.
Twins, right? Yeah,
that are 7 months old. And if I had, this is so powerful for anyone who's listening, especially.
I keep inching closer to you. I'm ready for it.
especially if you are female in this world where there's just so much social pressure. I stayed true to my heart, which is the hardest thing to do. I married David. And if I had not done that, then I wouldn't be here with you on this podcast at all. I would have no company, no product line, no mission-driven business, no 90 employees, no passion, no purpose, no book,
No impact.
no impact. And I feel that is not just like, oh, look what I did. It's not about me at all. It's just to share the story so that anyone who's listening and is going through a tough time, like, I have a decision to make. This is such a clear path. My problem will go away in 2 seconds, instant gratification or long-term fulfillment. That was single-handedly the one decision I made in the last 10 years that I felt was the self-awareness decision, right?
Amazing.
Like, I had enough self-awareness to be like, this is wrong for me and this is right for me. And the patience and perseverance to execute my daily routine for like 7 years and come out the other end. And if I can do it, literally anyone can do it, because that's all it was. It was just hard work and staying true to myself.
Well, I think you kind of just gave us the final answer to the final question, but let me ask you directly, please. And thank you so much for sharing your story. This has been incredible. Ever forward, when you hear those 2 words,
So
having
powerful.
relived all of that just now, again, thank you again for sharing and kind of me sharing the origin of it all. Like, how does that fall on you? What does that mean to you today?
This is so powerful. And I do feel that I was meant to meet you and to come on the Ever Forward
likewise, thank you.
podcast, because I truly believe that the only key to happiness is that you move forward. So everyone wants to just get in like the comfort zone. And I think that once you're in there, right? Let's say I go with this guy, I get rid of the debt. Now I'm in the comfort zone. What my soul wants is to go forward. And so ever forward just means, for me, move forward, ever forward. And those things for each individual person, happiness lies only in moving forward.
There's never a right or a wrong answer. I always say at the end of
it's
that.
Like literally like.
I appreciate your response. It's been great having you on the show. Thank you again. I will have all of your information for MaryRuth's Organics and the new book, Liquids to Lunch, down in the show notes and video notes for everybody to check out. You wanna get into this stuff. Again, thank you so much. You brought me over like a smorgasbord of so many great new things for me to try out. So, MaryRuth, thank you.
Thank you, Chase.
Thank you.